Wish TV. All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics. Focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. We start with the impeachment trial of former President Trump this week. The House of Representatives delivering the articles of impeachment on Monday, setting up the Senate for trial. Both Indiana Senators Mike Braun and Todd Young joined a Republican effort to block the trial, calling it unconstitutional. Why? And what will happen in that trial? Our Brooke Martin is with Senator Todd Young.
Let's welcome in Senator Todd Young now. Senator, thanks so much for your time. I want to start with the impeachment trial because you've said you believe it is unconstitutional. Why is that?
Well, I think what I've said is it's time to move on. We've got a new president in office. Donald Trump is a private citizen. We're in the middle of a global pandemic, a serious economic downturn, and Hoosiers want me to work with this administration to actually improve their lives and get us out of this pandemic. So that's what I'm doing in good faith. That's what I think my colleagues should be focused on, as opposed to this trial. So let's hope it concludes in fairly short order, and we can get back to the business of the American people.
Do you believe, the accusation is that Donald Trump incited an insurrection. Do you believe he should be held responsible for what happened January 6th in any way?
Well, look, sure. By the legal standard of incitement, it would be a tough case to win in a court of law. But listen, if the local prosecutor believes that there was incitement, Donald Trump is a private citizen, and he can be held to account just like any private citizen in a federal court of law. So that should occur if indeed that's what the prosecutor thinks. Again, he should not be above the law, just as no one should be, and this should be handled through the normal federal court system.
Senator, you introduced Pete Buttigieg at his Senate confirmation hearing. Do you believe he's the right choice for Transportation Secretary, and how does being a former mayor play a role in that job?
Well, look, he's certainly the right choice at this moment in time for the people of Indiana, which is the reason I decided to introduce him. It's helpful to have a Hoosier who is familiar with some of the infrastructure projects that I've been very active in getting federal funding for up in the northern part of the state. I've developed a working relationship with the mayor over the course of my many visits around the state of Indiana, and that's been a cordial and pleasant relationship. So it's good for Indiana, for their United States Senator, to have a close working relationship as we contemplate putting together an infrastructure package.
Lawmakers still discussing another round of coronavirus relief. Can a 50-50 Senate pass a relief package?
Well, I hope so. I hope it can be done in a bipartisan fashion that brings all the American people along, that doesn't needlessly add money onto our debt. So it needs to be properly scoped. And I'm a member of a 16 U.S. Senator group, 8 Republicans, 8 Democrats, that are trying to craft exactly this sort of package where we're going to focus on manufacture of vaccines, production and distribution, and also ensuring that there's a sufficient number of tests for the American people. What has been presented to us by the Biden administration is not a bipartisan effort, so I certainly am hopeful that effort fails.
Should it include more direct payments to families? And how much is too much? You talked about the cost.
Well, certainly it's too much if you have a $300,000 household income family receiving a check. And that's what's been proposed. You might call it socialism for the affluent, as some of my colleagues have. Listen, if there are household payments, it needs to go to people of more modest means, people who are genuinely hurting during this pandemic, as opposed to people who are doing well. I think that should be incontrovertible. It's just good old Hoosier common sense.
You presented a constitutional amendment to prevent adding seats to the Supreme Court. Do you believe Democrats will try to expand the court? And why not add seats? It's happened before, and the federal court system has 12 circuits with only 9 justices.
Yeah, I think that's very treacherous ground to walk on at this point in our history. Let's admit that we have been a politically divided country for a number of years right now. And if you really want to rub salt into the wounds of half of America, you start expanding the Supreme Court of the United States and making major structural changes to the highest court in the land, a court which incidentally referees some of the most controversial issues in our politics. So I agree with the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who indicated that she thinks 9 is just the right number.
President Biden has spent his first week issuing several executive orders, including military, immigration, climate change. What do those tell you about this Biden administration?
Well, you know, the number of executive orders and sort of the broad sweep of them, which includes, for example, cancellation of the Keystone XL pipeline, therefore cancellation of a job creation project as we try and emerge from the worst economy in generations. That doesn't strike me as wise. So my hope would be that he exercises less pen and phone power and a lot more sort of legislative, consultative power, working with the people's representatives, those of us in Congress who are more in touch with our constituents, and really tries to unify the country, which is exactly what his campaign platform was. These executive orders are inconsistent with that campaign platform.
Senator, before we let you go, your term ends after next year. Are you ready to announce your campaign for re-election?
Well, stand by. We have some important things ahead of us in coming weeks here in Congress, and it sure has been my great privilege to represent the people of Indiana. I enjoy my work, but have some consequential matters to attend to on behalf of Hoosiers before I make any final decision on that. But I'll be sure and let you know.
All right, Senator Todd Young, thanks so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
We talked about the Pete Buttigieg nomination. The Senate has now scheduled a vote on that nomination for Tuesday at noon. He is expected to win Senate confirmation. Coming up, he led the city of Indianapolis for 8 years. Now he's heading for warmer weather. Phil Sanchez goes one-on-one with Greg Ballard about the state of the city next on All Indiana Politics.
And welcome back to All Indiana Politics on this Sunday as we welcome in former Indianapolis Mayor Greg Ballard. Good to see you, sir. Thank you for taking some time.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So I hear you're leaving us.
I am leaving. We are moving to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, by the end of February.
Why is that?
Well, we've had a place down there. We bought a place in '91 when I came back from the Gulf War. We were stationed in North Carolina. I kept going to Myrtle Beach. Had a smaller place. We bought a bigger place 3 years ago. We're rehabbing it so that we could live in it. And that's it just seems like the right time to do it right now.
Okay. And this is purely lifestyle change, retirement per se, right?
Well, not really retirement, but I'll maintain relationships with the University of Indianapolis and the Ballard Summit that we do there every year. I'll maintain relationships with Indy Women in Tech. And because I'm still on their board, I co-founded that group, and there's a tremendous group doing great things, putting women through training for tech jobs, things like that. So I want to continue that, obviously. So I'll be back and forth.
Okay. From what I remember about you, Mr. Mayor, is that you like golf, right?
I do play a little bit of golf. Believe it or not, I don't take my golf clubs to Myrtle Beach.
Wow.
When we've been going down there back and forth, I haven't played down there in a long time, actually. However, when we move down there, I think I'll play a little bit.
I can imagine. So I have to ask you, it's been a few years since you've been in office, but looking back, fond memories of being the mayor of Indianapolis. What are some?
I was so blessed to have a great staff, and I like to think we did a lot of good things. I always told my staff, I think we were put in here to do all those things that were kind of kicked down the road, either politically or financially, for the last 20 to 30 years, and I think we got a lot of those things done. So I appreciate the fact, but thing I'm really proudest of is we kind of created a new generation of leadership. If you see where they are now, Sports Corporation, you know, with Ryan Vaughn and Michael Huber, the great Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce, and Jason Cloth, Cindy Indiana. I mean, so many people, Adam Thiessen, Special Places, Sarah Taylor, and so many others, are really kind of leading these different organizations in the city and the state, and I'm really, really proud of that.
I also have to ask you this. What do you think of the current state of the city of Indianapolis? Obviously, we're going through a big crime spree right now.
Yeah, it's difficult to go through this, and it's probably a little bit different with the COVID-19 that's going on, and of course we had trouble in the summer with the downtown issue. So I hope that they figure that out and try to move forward on it. Crime is always a difficult thing to work through. I think we did very specific things. People do seem to forget this. I'm kind of proud of this, but if you go back 30 years, there's only 4 years where the murder rate was below 100.
Right. 2009,
10, 11, 12. We did very specific things to do that, and one of them was crime prevention money. When that money was kind of taken out of our hands by the council in 2012, you start to see things inch up a little bit, because we were putting that money in the hands of people on the street who were really affecting crime. And
law enforcement.
Well, not just law enforcement. I'm talking about people on the street, like the 10-Point Coalition and others, Young Men Inc. and groups like that were really doing a great job in tamping down crime, tamping down retaliation. And unfortunately, when the money changed over from the council, but they kind of took it away from the mayor's office, that was a piece that I think contributed to an increase, because we brought it down dramatically, like 20 or 30 a year for 4 years in a row.
Yeah, I remember.
And then it started to inch back up.
So do you think the council made a mistake by taking that money away?
I do actually, because we were really focused on putting it in the hands of those people who were reducing the crime on the street, other than the police. And there were groups that were helping us do that, and unfortunately that's not there anymore.
I know as a former politician, the former mayor, you probably don't want to do this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't. Okay. What would you recommend to the current administration on how to cut
well,
down on crime?
I think that's probably one thing. I think, unfortunately, I think the city has an idea that the police are public safety. The police are really law enforcement. They're not public safety. There's a more holistic piece to this thing. And sometimes I think we kind of put the onus on the police to do all of this, when there's other pieces to all of this, working with different groups, working with the federal and state officials, working with the groups that on the street, making sure that the families and the groups that are really creating the violence are really targeted, and we get those people off the street, that sort of thing.
So do you agree with, because it sounds similar to what some people say when they say defund the police, kind of shifting money from the law enforcement aspect to more social services? Is that something that you...
No, I'm not a big defund the police guy.
Okay,
at
just
all.
want to be clear, yeah?
Yeah, but I think it's just a little bit of money that if you could put in different places. I don't want to take it from the place, but we found money. It was $2.5 million. We were the ones who created that. And we found $2.5 million. We put the different groups. It was people on the street, plus it was ex-offender, people who are working with ex-offenders, which is a big piece of that, so that they can have a good life and they don't have to go back to a life of crime. There are things like that, and some of that is still ongoing, but I'm not so sure. I wonder if it's really targeted to the people who really reduce the crime.
Do you think it's possible this year to reduce crime, or do you think it's going to be long term?
Well, it usually takes a while. We put a lot of things into place pretty quickly. And it wasn't until 2008, and then it wasn't until 2009 where we started to see the results of that. I remember specifically in 2008, my first summer as the mayor, I thought, man, this is bad.
Right.
But we kind of stuck to our guns with the things that we were doing, and by 2009 we saw results, and we saw it for 4 straight years.
We're going to have another segment with you here coming up shortly, but I want to get your take on the current state of politics today, not statewide, but nationally as well. Where do you think things are right now, given we just went through this election, the swearing in, everything that happened in Washington, D.C.? Do you think we're in a better place now than we were, say, a year ago?
It will certainly be in a different place, no question about that. I'm a big international person, because I was one of those who went to war. I went in difficult situations a couple times, and I look at it from that perspective. What can we do to reduce that? And post-World War II, that has always been about alliances. When we trade with each other, when we talk to each other, when we form these military or economic alliances, that reduces the chances of war. And I think we need to get back to that more than we have been.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that here coming up. You're going to hang with us here for a moment, right? Foreign policy coming up with former Indianapolis Mayor Greg Ballard. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we rejoin former Mayor of Indianapolis, Greg Ballard. Mr. Mayor, good to see you as always once again, sir. Let's continue that conversation that we just ended with on foreign policy. Your thoughts on the way it is today compared to the way it was last year or the last 4 years?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the alliances, and I think the world is a safer place when America leads these alliances. I don't think we necessarily want to dominate, as some people want to do, and some people want to pull back, which I think we had a lot of in the last administration. I think the world is safer when America kind of leads in these different organizations, particularly the economic and military alliances, because around the world, certainly when I was in the Marine Corps, people trusted America.
Sure.
And they knew we were going to do the right things. We're going to make our mistakes, and we didn't make a lot of mistakes along the way. But they knew that we were trying to do the right thing for the world. And I don't want to get away from that. I don't want to pull back from alliances. I think these things are extremely important so that our troops in uniform don't have to go do things, because when we mess that up,
right,
troops have to go somewhere, because it's our troops that go.
Sure.
Right?
Now, that being said, is America safer today than it was when Donald Trump took office 4 years ago?
You don't really know that at the time, and we didn't get into any new wars, but what I'm worried about is, are the alliances in the future frayed more than they would have been? When Angela Merkel came out and said, I guess we're on our own now, that's scary. Yeah. And she's the most powerful leader in Europe, and she's saying that, and she's obviously referring to America, that when she said Europe is on their own now. Those things are bothering me. When we pulled out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, whatever that may have said, and whatever the provisions were in that was an alliance of lots of Asian countries that wanted to align with America. Since then, China has come up with the Belt and Road Initiative, and they've had over 100 countries that they are putting together. So who's going to lead into the future? China's looking like they want to be a superpower. They've now got overseas bases. They're helping with infrastructure in all these other countries. They're looking like we did in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Right.
And so how do we want to go forward with this? And because what happens...
Do you like the way that we're going forward with this current administration and their plans that they put forth?
I think they have a more realistic and a long-term historical view of what engenders peace in the world and how we get together. I know President Biden recently talked to Vladimir Putin, and he was, from what I read, of course you never really know, but from what I read, he was pretty tough on him. And I think that's a different take than most presidents, the last 3 or 4 presidents, where they all want to reset with Russia. But Russia is not the long-term issue. Russia is funded primarily by the sale of oil and gas exports.
Yeah.
So we take that away, which I think in 20 years that will be severely diminished because of the energy initiatives around the world. So if Russia can get defunded, they're kind of out of the picture.
And you could talk about this for a long time. I know you can. You wrote a book on it. So but we only have about 2 minutes left, and I want to get your take on the current state of politics today, specifically coming off of what happened at the U.S. Capitol a few weeks ago. Just an awful scene that we watched play out there in Washington, D.C. I
really thought that was terrible, and it shook me up a little bit, to be frank with you, because we were always the stable democracy. We are the example for democracies around the world, and we always have been. And this was a group of people who looked to violently try to overturn the results of the election. This is the certification of their election, and they're trying to overturn that.
Yeah.
I was shaken up by that, to be frank with you, and I don't see how you could see it any other way.
Sure.
They tried to intimidate Congress to not certify the will of the people. I'm not sure how you see that any other way. And it bothers me when younger adults right now who are looking at this, and those in high school and college, like they're looking at this like, is this normal? Well, this was not normal. And it really bothers me that they had to see that in our country.
Do you think we have brighter days ahead?
I do think we have brighter days ahead. I've always believed in America and in the future of America, but I think we saw how fragile it might be if we continued down the wrong path like that. So I want to make sure that those who are, I'm getting ready to fade out, but the people who are coming up right now, that they have to maintain the democracy, and the world is better off when America leads in that effort.
Well said, Mr. Mayor. Always good to see you. Thank you for taking some time. I know that you're busy with the move, heading down to South Carolina. Correct. We wish you well and the family well, and keep in touch.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for all that you've done. More All Indiana Politics coming up after the break. And thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics this week. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. You can also find our brand new All Indiana Politics podcast. It's part of the All Indiana Podcast Network at wishtv.com. Have a great rest of your weekend.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.